Let me preface before I begin that I'm not only new to the storytelling session, I was actually walking back from the gym 15 minutes before this started, ran back to my apartment. I'm here. I haven't showered. I used cologne, which is like, what fancy people do instead of showering. So I'm going to tell you a really incriminating story. It has a tiny bit of adult content I will tell in a very family-friendly way, so it's going to not break the rules, I promise. So last year, I did a thing. I hiked the Appalachian Trail. Thank you. That's a perfect way to start. 2,189.1 miles, starting in Georgia, going to Maine. But where we're going to start is in Damascus, Virginia. And Damascus, Virginia is thought of as the heart of the AT, or the capital of the AT, because it's a place where Trail Days happens, where a convergence of 40,000 hippies kind of hang out in the town for a little while and get the locals really mad at them. That's really all that happens. I arrived there before this happened, and I was hanging out with my friends, Scuba, Blue Ox, among them was Disco as well, and I was Gadget. That's a name that I didn't give myself, someone else gave to me, so be it as it may. So we were hanging out at this place called the Virginia Creeper. I also did not give this name to the place. It was exactly as creepy as it sounds. I was drinking something called Wild Irish Rose, which I wasn't familiar with what it was prior to going to the grocery store and picking the cheapest thing on the shelf. And in the midst of this conversation, all of us guys sitting around a campfire decide to ask, how do we find a place to stay for free on the Appalachian Trail? I don't really know if there's an app for that on your phone. So I pull out my phone and I say, well, I have this app called Tinder on my phone. Exactly. All right, you're on the same page as me now. Okay, so pull out this app in Tinder, and immediately my drunk friends take it from me and start to do this, which if anybody's used Tinder before means swiping right, means every single person within a 50-mile radius has just been liked by me. So everyone is great in my book. So I put my phone away, hike another 100 miles to Waynesboro, Virginia, where I arrive. And at that point, I get out my phone, and lo and behold, there's text. It says, hey, you walk right through my backyard on the AT. And I said, oh, well, that's cool. Should we meet or something? Is that how this thing works? I'm not completely sure. I think it was a little forward, but it all worked out. And I said, hey, I need to tell you something. I'm hiking the Appalachian Trail. I'm not going to be showered. I'm going to run 25 miles, and you can pick me up at a road crossing. Creepiest thing ever. I have no idea how anybody ever agreed to this. But lo and behold, I arrive at the road crossing, and there she is. Lovely girl. I will not mention her name. But she says, hi. I say, hi, I'm Gadget. At that particular time, I say, this is a strange thru hiker thing, but I'm going to have to change my clothes. I'm going into the woods right there because I am filthy and dirty. That's how we met. It was great. So she takes me in her vehicle. We go get dinner. She says at this point that I need to go back to my house to grab something very quickly. I go back to her house. She leads me in the door. I'm coming inside, and I turn to the right and see two people seated at a table, standing, well, seated, but soon standing. In an inquisitory way, I learn that these are her parents. She has brought me home to meet her parents on her first Tinder date within 2 hours of that moment. And in this moment, I decide, there's two things I can do, Gadget, two things. I could either be incredibly awkward, or I could be charming as heck. And so I choose option number 2, and it goes really smoothly. The rest of the evening goes incredibly well. She shows me around her palatial Virginia home and her apartment upstairs in her parents' home. I go up to the apartment. We decide to watch a movie. I pick a particularly violent movie because I did not want what is supposed to happen at the end of a Tinder date to happen. Mind you, keep that in mind. I did not want what happens at the end of a Tinder date to happen. So we're watching this incredibly violent movie. She's sitting next to me on the couch. At a certain point, she puts her arm around me, etc. Not the awkward pause yet, if you believe it. So the evening continues to go. She decides to fall asleep on the couch next to me. I fall asleep gladly because I'm a thru hiker. I usually go to sleep at about 8:30 p.m. At a certain point, she wakes me up and taps me on the shoulder. And she comes close to my face and says, we've learned a lot about each other in these few hours. I need to tell you something. And I said, oh, what is that? And she says, I need to tell you that a few days ago, I tried to kill myself. Awkward moment number one. Here and there. So, in my most eloquent way of responding, completely delirious and sleepy, I say, oh. At that moment, I remember that it is the 2nd of the month, and she had said that she tried to do this at the end of last month. So within 5 days, I was there. All of a sudden, it comes into fruition that I was meeting her parents. They were the ones that came to the hospital. I am the friend that she met after this to try to bring her up from being down. And I've been down before. I've been pretty close to that low. And so I said, if there's anything that you need, just call me. I can't come to meet you. I'm hiking the trail, but just tell me. She drops me off the next morning. I start walking. End of the day, I turn my cell phone back on. 12, 15 messages, starting from a friendly greeting at the beginning to the end being, why are you ignoring me? Why are you ignoring me? Please respond to me. I respond. Next day, 15 messages. Last message that time saying, you know that I tried to kill myself, don't you? I did not know how to respond to that, but I tried. For weeks, until the point where I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't simply be pulled into what you're feeling. I'm sorry, but I have to stop talking to you. I know what this could mean, but this has to stop. And so it stops. A couple months later, I'm summiting Mount Katahdin. I get a message from her. She's pulled herself out of depression. She's found a new boyfriend. She's doing an incredibly good job with her life. I chose not to respond to that moment, but I held it near and dear to myself that was exactly what needed to happen in that moment. Flash forward. I had met another girl. Good idea, right? Absolutely. The first one went so well. This girl, messaging on Facebook, another great way to meet somebody. She's an actress in New York, and so she says she's traveling in Europe. We're doing two things simultaneously. This is wonderful. This is a great life adventure that we're living simultaneously thousands of miles apart. And she says, let's meet up when I get back to the States. And I said, sure, why not? That sounds great. Nothing bad can happen. I said, I'm going to be in Maine at the end of July. You should come up and fly and visit me. Did not expect to get a yes. Answer is yes. Get to the airport. She's meeting me there. Her name is Jess. That may or may not be a real name. But I meet Jess there, and she is as beautiful as everything I ever imagined. We go on a road trip together. Slowly, we drop off my thru-hiking friends, and it's just us left in her Manhattan apartment. And I look at her, and she looks at me. And we had been speaking for months prior to this in messages. And I decide I have to do something about this. I write a note on a piece of paper and leave it by her bedside at night. We leave in the morning. Inside of this note, I said, I think I am falling in love with you. Not awkward yet. So we continue to talk after I get back from the trail, through text messages, through Skype, through Facebook Messenger, through FaceTime, all of those different programs. And at one point, I say to her, I need an answer. I love you. I want to be with you. The screen clicks off. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Okay. Awkward pause number 2. Awkward moment number 2. A few days later, I get a response saying, I'm so sorry. We're two different people living two different lives. You're a dirty hiker. I'm a beautiful actress in New York. I entered that in. That's not really what she said. But that's what I was thinking. It broke me completely, because I thought that I had found love, just like girl number 1 had thought she found love. And so over the course of the next year, I was very, very depressed. Very depressed, very low. And I wrote an album about it. I don't suggest you listen to it unless you're very sad as well. And so the next thing that I know, I'm sitting at a job interview in Manheim, Pennsylvania. It's north of here. I don't know if you know this. You know, okay, yeah, you're from Pennsylvania. You know that. I'm from Cleveland. I don't think I mentioned that. 2 weeks here. I'm new. If you want to If you want a friend, here's one right here. But save until afterwards and then judge me then. I'm sitting in a job interview with the president of the new company that I currently work at. And he's a very nice person. He's very inquisitive. And he looks at me and he asks, because I'm working a dead-end job in Cleveland, I don't know, well, he doesn't ask, I guess he says, I don't know why you are where you are. And I said, I don't know either. I'm looking for the job. But then he stops and he continues to look at me in dead silence. Awkward pause number 2. I don't know why you are where you are. And I continue to smile. And I think, I don't know why you are where you are. And I was really low prior to that moment. And hello, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Here I am. Thank you. Thank you.